Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're asking, why hasn't Malcador the Sigillite returned from death? A general spoiler warning to begin here, as today I will be referencing events from across the Horus Heresy series. So you have been warned, and with that said, let's just jump straight in. Okay, so as much as I love the Primarchs and the Emperor of Mankind, there's a good chance that it's Malcador the Sigillite who takes the crown for the character I absolutely love the most. He was the eternal presence alongside the Emperor, and the man who helped to raise the Primarchs within the Crusade, instructs them in the ways of the Imperium. A man who came to love them as sons himself, and a man who would give his all for the future of mankind, and more importantly, for his friend. And I've been going back through all 3 volumes of The End and the Death lately, still now feeling that gut-wrenching emotion each time that Malcador ascends the Golden Throne, which we will finally be talking about in depth very soon. And I just can't help returning to the same question within my mind over and over, which is, why hasn't Malcador returned? Why, when he is a Perpetual, do we see him age and weaken so drastically when all the others don't? Take Alanius, for example, who is older than even the Emperor, or Vulcan, or the Emperor himself, or Erda before her true death with the Aphame Blade. It's a topic we've discussed in various ways over the years before, but it's just one I really wanted to focus on today, as it just absolutely fascinates me. And again, Malcador is a character I just completely adore. I guess the question we first have to ask here is Malcador even truly a Perpetual? And why do we think he is? Well, this arises from the short story The Last Council, when Malcador is confronted by Jagatai Khan atop the walls of the Imperial Palace, when Jagatai comes to apologise to Malcador for his involvement in a long ago confrontation with him, alongside Horus Lupercal and Alfarius. The Khan bowed low, bringing him almost down to the Sigillite's own eye level. "Forgive me, for nothing could be further from my intentions. Things have soured between us in the years since you humbled my brother, and I would tell you that I wish to make amends. There can be no secrets now." "Unnecessary," said Malcador, gesturing for him to rise. "Your presence here is all I need. To know that you are one of the most loyal. You remain here to defend the throne even though it is not your nature, nor that of your legion. And yet there is more I can do. Again, I say that I must warn you." "Warn me of what?" The Khan's eyes glinted with the flickering light of the staff. "I know who you are, Lord Sigillite. Who you were." Malcador grew very still. The soft murmur of the night wind was the only sound up there on the wall. He felt his ancient power prickling in the back of his mind. "What do you mean, Jagatai? What do you think you know?" "I know, because Horus knows. You left your mark upon his pride, as surely as he left his upon the council table. And my brother is nothing if not patient and resourceful in his execution of his vengeances." The Sigillite closed his eyes. He had already seen where this was going. "In his libraries on the flagship," the Khan continued, "he found you. For a long time, it was his private obsession, and I dare say he has uncovered even more in all the years since. At first I believe he feared the influence you might have over our father, and the Imperium, and the creation of the Council of Terror only confirmed his suspicions. Though, of course, when he realised he could no longer simply decry your efforts as unjust and self-interested, He delved deeper into the past you have deliberately hidden. He took a breath. He told me that you are Bram Malcador, last of the Sigillites, the cursed wanderer, the Perpetual. Now, of course, the Perpetual here could simply be a title. However, given we're in a galaxy where Perpetuals are a thing, that doesn't make much sense. It would be deliberately confusing. So it is far more likely here it's meant literally that Malcador is a Perpetual. And it is possibly reinforced later during the Siege of Terror, during Alanius's meeting with Loken in The End and the Death Volume 2. I'm a Perpetual, he says. You know what that is? Yes. The smell of eternity, indeed. I am kin to the Sigillite, and a comrade of the Emperor in ages past. I have come a long way to find him. Now, Alanius could mean kin to the Sigillite as in he fulfilled a similar role to him, or he could literally mean kin, as they are kin, both as Perpetuals. And seeing as they have literally just discussed what a Perpetual is, that is the one that makes the more sense for me. Indeed, as we know, Alanius was the original and first person to wield the title of War Master. And so again, this all makes the aging and weakening and lack of rebirth for Malcador a little perplexing. We also know the stilling of time and absolute chaos of the warp that had engulfed Terra by the end of the Siege of Terror is no excuse or explanation for a lack of rebirth for Malcador either, as the Perpetual Acte who was accompanying Alanius died and was instantly reborn over and over when she had become trapped beneath rubble, again in Volume 2 of The End and the Death. Dead, she lives, such is the Perpetual curse. When the wall collapsed, she could not save herself, nor the girl at her side, for she had put every shred of her psychic power into stopping the Dark Apostle Erebus. Acte has built her own grave. Broken rock buries her, and beneath it, she is broken too. She can feel the extent of her injuries, and knows most would be fatal to any mortal form. But she is Perpetual. She lies in the darkness of her blindness, but even if her eyes could see, all would still be suffocating black. Many tons of stone compress her, masonry blocks crush her, everything is dust. The girl is close by. Acte can feel the last heat bleeding out of her body, a fierce soul to the end. Acte almost admires her, but she has endured the pain of the girl's death along with her own, because their minds were leashed together. 2 deaths, she has suffered too. How many more? The pain, like her, is forever. So, Perpetuals even here at this time should still be reborn. However, there is an interesting line that could possibly provide an explanation for why Malcador hasn't returned yet. Dead, she lives. It will take time, she realises. A day, a week, a year, 10 years. If she lies still, her form will slowly heal, cell by cell, until at last her restored mind will be strong enough to cast the rocks aside. She must endure the agony, in stillness and silence, for however long it takes. So even though dying and being reborn over and over, Acte gets progressively stronger each time. It simply takes time to regain her strength, and be reborn as the person she was. So, if Malcador is a Perpetual, that could give us an explanation of why he hasn't yet returned, but still could. Malcador's death upon the Golden Throne was about as complete and eviscerating as it could possibly be. He literally gave his life, being torn apart cell by cell, atom by atom, by the sheer power he was trying to contain. That kind of death, you would assume, would take a lot of recovery from. His atoms and cells slowly regenerating, one by one, over the course of millennia. So maybe Malcador is still regenerating to be reborn. Maybe his spirit has been reborn over and over and died again and again each time, waiting for his physical body to truly be prepared. Who knows? You can't rule it out as impossible, given what we've seen with Acte. But yet, there is something that could throw a little doubt on this theory, and that is Vulcan's last death against Magnus the Red within the Webway. As during that last battle, as Vulcan delivered his final blow to decapitate his demon brother, Magnus used all of his psychic might to literally unravel Vulcan's DNA, to pull him apart, atom by atom, in an attempt to stop him from keeping coming back from death. And Magnus achieved that, killing Vulcan, and yet Vulcan still returned from death. A literally charred skeleton dragging his hammer, but he came back. And by the time he returned to the throne room, he was back to his fully empowered self. Now, we don't know how many lifetimes it took Vulcan to reach the throne room, and I should point out he was being backed and empowered by the Emperor in his fight against Magnus. But the fact is, he still was reborn from that initial death, having his very genetic makeup pulled apart, surely implying that Malcador could, or even should return from his death upon the Golden Throne. But he hasn't, and indeed it appeared he never expected to. As he assumed the Golden Throne, he felt the Emperor's sadness at losing his best and only friend, and Malcador told him not to mourn. So it all really points to a true, absolute death, one that Malcador could never return from, once again casting doubt on that Perpetual lineage. And I think from there, we have to then look at the fact that Malcador died at the hands of Magnus previously, and that the Emperor openly wept when speaking to the Perpetual Olivia about it. You know he killed Malcador, yes? He nodded, his shoulders slumped. I felt him die. I felt his agony as Magnus ended him. The tears he shed were real and painfully raw. That's not a reaction to a perpetual death. It's a grief-filled reaction to mortal death. And the very reason the Emperor is speaking to Olivia here is to get her assistance in bringing Malcador back. Somehow, having her sacrifice her perpetual life for Malcador's. Which is what happens. And so, essentially, I think we just have some conflicting evidence here. And so the answer to why Malcador hasn't returned simply has to be the most logical. Because he can't. Because he's dead. Because he wasn't a Perpetual. Yes, we have Jagatai revealing that Horus believed Malcador was a Perpetual. found evidence of his past. But that evidence could simply be wrong. And yes, Alanius maybe makes a reference to Malcador being a Perpetual, but that simply could have been a reference to him implying he is similar to Malcador, in that he used to be an advisor to the Emperor. His closest advisor. Again, let's look at the greater amount of evidence against Malcador being a Perpetual. Firstly, Malcador alone appears to be a Perpetual who greatly ages and weakens. Secondly, that I can see, he never directly states himself that he is one. Thirdly, he dies at the hands of Magnus the Red, and the Emperor grieves him, and the Emperor has to get help to bring Malcador back. And fourthly, it's clear the Emperor and Malcador both don't expect Malcador to live after assuming the Golden Throne, and it's a final farewell. So the answer to why Malcador hasn't returned to the galaxy just has to be the most logical and simple. Because he can't. Jagatai was wrong, and he wasn't a Perpetual. There's simply too much evidence against it. And of course that opens a whole host of other questions. Like, how did he live so long if he wasn't one? Maybe in truth he was a supremely powerful sorcerer. Someone who used his own power to extend his own life as long as he could. And in spending centuries beside the Emperor, can we really rule out the Emperor using his own power to extend his only friend's life, given how much we know the Emperor relied upon the Sigillite? It's a pretty easy explanation, and it fits with the old and tired Malcador feeling pretty well, especially that rapid degeneration during the Heresy, because it was stressful. And the absolute worst thing for your health is stress. It doesn't matter how powerful Malcador was, he was still, at the end of the day, a mortal. And so he simply suffered the same strains and frailties as the rest of us. So no, Malcador hasn't returned, and he won't, because he can't. And as much as many of us love him, maybe that's the way it should be. Remembered as he was, for the sacrifice he gave, and as Malcador, the hero. But as always everyone, what do you think? What is your personal theory of why Malcador the Sigillite hasn't returned? Why do you think Jagatai declared him a Perpetual, when all the evidence points to it not being true? Do you personally feel that Malcador was a Perpetual, or instead that he was simply a very powerful sorcerer? That maybe the Emperor used his power to keep Malcador's life extended? Or do you feel that Malcador was a Perpetual and that he could return, and that maybe one day he will? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow, and if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.